They called me a culinary god, the architect of flavor, a wizard of the kitchen. They gave me 3 of their most coveted stars, and with them, a crown of pressure that felt like it was made of lead. I could create a dish that tasted of a forgotten memory, a childhood summer, or a first love, but I couldn't remember what it was like to cook without the crushing weight of expectation. I was the world-famous chef Ethan Hayes, and my life was a symphony of stress and sterile perfection. So, I walked away. Not forever, maybe, but for as long as it took to remember why I fell in love with a kitchen in the first place. I found a small, sun-drenched beach town on the coast, the kind of place where time slows down and the only critics are seagulls. I bought a beat-up old food truck, painted it a cheerful turquoise, and decided to do something simple. Just cook. For the joy of it. No menu, no reservations, no pressure. Just one dish a day. Today's dish was my sun-kissed fish tacos, a seemingly simple thing, but it held a secret, a sauce I'd spent years perfecting, a family recipe with a unique, vibrant twist that was all my own. I wasn't selling fame or a brand. I was selling a moment of pure, unadulterated flavor, and for a few hours each day, it felt like I was home again. The little pop-up stand, which I affectionately named the Catch, quickly became the talk of the town. People seemed to love the simplicity and the genuine taste of the food. It wasn't about presentation or pretension. It was just damn good food. That was, until she arrived. Her name was Brenda Sterling, and she was the self-appointed queen of this little town's culinary scene. She owned Brenda's Bites, a bakery that had been a local institution for decades, built on a foundation of mediocre cupcakes and overpriced lattes. She wore her self-importance like a tailored suit, her face perpetually set in a tight, judgmental expression. She saw my growing line of happy customers not as a welcome addition to the town, but as a direct threat to her reign. She stood in line, a little too close to the person in front of her, her designer handbag clutched like a weapon. She watched me with a calculating stare, her eyes scanning my every move. Finally, she reached the front. I offered her a genuine, pleasant smile, the kind I reserved for people who appreciated food for what it was. "Welcome. What can I get for you today?" I asked, my voice calm and friendly. She gave a little sniff of disdain, as if the very air around my humble food truck was beneath her. "Just one of your sun-kissed fish tacos, and make it snappy." "I have important errands to run," she said, her words dripping with condescension. I didn't let her attitude bother me. In my world, I'd faced far worse from critics and demanding restaurateurs. I went to work, preparing her taco with the same surgical precision and care I would have used in my 3-star kitchen in Paris. I diced the fish, added a sprinkle of fresh cilantro, and finished it with a liberal dollop of my signature sauce. It wasn't a quick drizzle, it was a deliberate, artful touch. I handed her the taco, and a small, impatient sigh escaped her lips as she took a bite. The moment that sauce hit her tongue, her entire demeanor changed. The tightly wound expression on her face softened. Her eyes widened ever so slightly, and for a split second, she looked genuinely surprised. She quickly regained her composure, but the calculating look returned, more intense than before. This is actually quite good," she said, her voice a low purr. "What's in this sauce? It's very unique." I knew this game. It was the same one a dozen journalists and rivals had played over the years, trying to unearth my secrets. "Just a little touch of sunshine and a lot of love, ma'am," I replied, my smile unwavering. Brenda leaned in conspiratorially, her perfume overpowering the scent of the ocean. "Look, I own Brenda's Bites down the street," she said, as if this were a trump card. "It's a very established local business. I could really use a recipe like this. How about you share your little secret? We could work something out, partners, maybe. Or I could just buy it from you. Name your price." It was a classic, manipulative offer. She thought I was some simple vacationer with a lucky recipe. She had no idea who she was talking to. "I appreciate the offer," I said, my voice still light, "but this recipe ain't for sale. It's a family thing, and I'm just enjoying my vacation." My words made the facade she wore completely crumble. The polite mask fell away, revealing the entitlement and aggression beneath. "A vacation? You're running a food truck. Don't be coy. Everyone has a price, young man," she spat, her voice now sharp with frustration. "And that sauce, it could make me a fortune. Think about it." I looked her directly in the eye, my casual vacation demeanor melting away to reveal the cold, professional authority I had spent a decade cultivating. "I've already made my fortune, ma'am," I said, my voice dropping to a low, serious tone. "In this recipe, it's priceless. Enjoy your taco." A defeated, furious look crossed her face. She spun on her heel and stormed away, clutching the taco like a piece of evidence. I watched her go, a quiet smirk on my lips. My quiet vacation was over. A new game had just begun. Brenda Sterling, still simmering with a fury that could curdle milk, stormed away from the catch, the taste of my priceless taco still haunting her palate, a tangible reminder of what she couldn't have. Her initial irritation had morphed into a full-blown obsession. A Michelin-Star chef on vacation might have appreciated the artistry, the subtle layering of flavors, but Brenda saw only one thing: a potential gold mine she wasn't profiting from, a secret she couldn't crack. Her own bakery, Brenda's Bites, had always relied on volume over quality, cheap ingredients masked by sugary frosting and garish food coloring. But this unassuming food truck was drawing away her lunch crowd, threatening her mediocre empire. The very next day, the spies started to appear. First, it was a nervous-looking young man in a Brenda's Bites uniform, trying and failing to look inconspicuous as he ordered a taco and then painstakingly tried to analyze it, sniffing at the sauce, taking tiny, almost microscopic bites. He fumbled with his phone, clearly trying to surreptitiously record me preparing the dish. I'd seen it all before in the cutthroat kitchens of Paris and New York. It was amateur hour. Then came an older woman, a friend of Brenda's I'd seen at her bakery, who ordered 3 tacos but spent more time peering into my truck, asking overly specific questions about the origin of my fish and the unusual spices I used. They were transparent, almost comically so. I smiled, gave vague answers, and continued to move with the fluid grace of someone who could debone a fish blindfolded. My years at the top had honed my observational skills to a razor's edge. I noticed the way people lingered, the odd angles of their phone cameras, the questions that felt less like curiosity and more like an interrogation. Even on vacation, my chef's radar was always on. I decided to have a little fun. My secret sauce was a complex symphony of fresh herbs, citrus, and a very specific, rare chili that gave it a unique kick. The next day, for the spy who was clearly Brenda's new point man, I made a batch of sauce where I subtly swapped out the rare chili for a common, slightly duller alternative. I also deliberately left a single, obscure, and completely irrelevant utensil prominently displayed, as if it were a crucial part of my preparation process. Within an hour, Brenda's flustered spy was gone, likely rushing back to Brenda to report on the new chili and the mystery tool. A day later, I saw Brenda herself, attempting to sell new and improved fish tacos at her bakery, a sad, pale imitation that looked and tasted nothing like mine. Her face, when I subtly walked by, was a mask of frustrated confusion, but her tactics soon grew bolder. My part-time help, a cheerful high schooler named Mayu, who helped me with packaging and taking orders, came to me one afternoon, her eyes wide. "Mr. Ethan, Brenda Sterling offered me a job. She said she'd pay me double what you do and give me a full-time position. She asked if I could tell her a little more about how you make your special sauce while I'm there," she whispered, clearly uncomfortable. My heart warmed at Maya's honesty, but a cold steel settled in my gut. This wasn't just about recipes anymore. It was about undermining my entire operation, even if it was just a vacation pop-up. I reassured Maya, thanked her for her loyalty, and quietly decided to pay her a little extra, just because. The near miss came 2 days later, during the town's bustling farmers' market. I had set up the catch right in the heart of the action, the scent of fresh ingredients mingling with the salty air. Business was booming, and I was in the zone, a blur of motion and efficiency. As I was reaching for a fresh batch of cilantro, I saw her, Brenda, dressed in an oversized hat and sunglasses, pretending to inspect a stall of artisanal cheeses. But her eyes were fixed on my small cooler of prepared ingredients. I had a small, unlabeled bottle in there of very specific, rare, and incredibly potent lime oil, the true secret behind the sun-kissed part of my tacos. It looked innocuous, like any other small bottle. As I turned my back for a second to grab an order, I saw Brenda's hand, quick and furtive, reaching for the cooler. My instincts, honed by years of managing chaotic kitchens and preventing costly mistakes, screamed before her fingers could even brush the bottle. I smoothly pivoted, reaching for a towel that was conveniently draped over the cooler. My hand casually, almost imperceptibly, covered the bottle, knocking her hand away without direct contact, as if by accident. Oops, sorry. Mum, just grabbing this, I said with an apologetic smile, though my eyes, hidden behind my casual demeanor, were like ice. She pulled her hand back as if burned, her face flush and crimson beneath the wide brim of her hat. She mumbled something about being clumsy and quickly disappeared into the crowd, leaving behind the distinct scent of cheap perfume and desperate ambition. It was clear now. This wasn't just rude curiosity. It was a concerted effort, a deliberate attempt at sabotage and theft. My annoyance was slowly giving way to a strange sense of challenge, a spark of the old competitive fire I thought I'd left behind. The local community, too, had started to notice. Old Man Hemlock, who ran the bait shop next to my usual spot, tipped his withered cap one morning. Brenda Sterling's got a reputation. Son, he drawled, spitting a stream of tobacco juice. She's always been one to step on folks to get what she wants. Don't let her run you out. Your tacos are a blessing to this town. The owner of the local antique shop, a kind woman named Clara, also gave me a knowing look. Brenda's never been one to share the spotlight, dear, especially when someone else shines brighter. Their warnings, whispered and indirect, solidified my resolve. My vacation was meant to be a break from the culinary battles, but it seemed fate had delivered one right to my doorstep, disguised as a disgruntled local baker. I was still Chef Ethan Hayes, and while I may have been on vacation, some habits and some recipes were just too valuable to surrender. The game, I realized with a slight, dangerous smile, was definitely on. Brenda Sterling was losing more than just customers to the catch. She was losing her mind. My subtle defiance and the undeniable popularity of my sun-kissed fish tacos had ignited a firestorm of envy within her. Her bakery, Brenda's Bites, was bleeding money, its stale pastries and bland coffee now standing in stark contrast to the fresh, vibrant flavors I was serving. She watched my growing lines with a seething resentment, the sweet success of my unassuming food truck tasting like ash in her mouth. The failed attempts to poach my staff, the amateurish spies, the pathetic imitation tacos at her own shop had culminated in a desperate, singular objective. She had to get that recipe. Specifically, she needed the secret ingredient, the lime oil she'd observed me using, which she wrongly believed was the sole key to my unparalleled sauce. She saw it as her one chance to regain her lost prestige, to crush the little food truck that had dared to overshadow her established mediocrity. She began to stake out my truck, observing my patterns, waiting for the perfect moment of vulnerability. I could feel her eyes on me, a prickle on the back of my neck, but I let her watch. In fact, I subtly encouraged it. The opportunity, from Brenda's perspective, arrived on the busy Saturday of the month, during the town's annual summer food festival. The boardwalk was a chaotic symphony of laughter, music, and the enticing aromas of various food stalls. My line stretched down the street, and I was in constant motion, a blur of efficiency and quiet focus. The real, potent, artisanal lime oil was kept in a small, nondescript dropper bottle, meticulously labeled for my own use, hidden in a secure, small compartment within the truck's cooler. But for Brenda's benefit, I had placed a similar, identical-looking dropper bottle on a small, accessible shelf near the prep station, clearly visible but slightly obscured by a stack of napkins. This decoy bottle contained not lime oil, but a harmless, intensely bitter concoction I'd whipped up, designed to ruin any dish it touched. It was my little bait, a test of her audacity. As the lunch rush hit its peak, a sudden commotion erupted near the ice cream vendor 3 stalls down. A child had accidentally spilled a tray of sundaes, creating a sticky, sugary mess that drew the attention of nearly everyone, including Maya, my cheerful assistant. It was a well-executed distraction, almost a perfect, and I knew instantly who was behind it, as I leaned over to hand a customer their order. Feigning distraction, I saw Brenda, disguised poorly in a large straw hat and sunglasses, sidle up to my truck. Her hand darted out, quick and practiced, snatching the decoy bottle from the shelf. She tucked it into her oversized handbag with a triumphant, almost manic grin, melting back into the crowd before anyone else could notice. I didn't react outwardly. My smile remained, my movements steady. But inside, a cold satisfaction spread through me. The trap was sprung. Later that evening, after the last taco had been served and the truck was locked down, I reviewed the discreet security camera I'd installed days ago, concealed cleverly amidst the other kitchen equipment. The footage was crystal clear. Brenda's face, contorted with a mixture of greed and desperation, her furtive hand snatching the decoy. It was undeniable proof. I also found a discarded grocery list near where she'd been lurking earlier, scrawled, with a note at the bottom, "Get lime oil, must have recipe." Trivial in isolation, but damning when paired with the footage. This wasn't just an annoyance anymore. This was a direct assault on my passion, my craft, and my integrity. My vacation was officially over. I stood in my quiet rental house, the moonlight streaming through the window, and for the first time in weeks, I felt the familiar hum of a different kind of energy. This wasn't the exhausting pressure of a 3-star kitchen, but the sharp, exhilarating thrill of a challenge. I had spent years meticulously building flavors, understanding the psychology of taste, and anticipating every nuance of a dining experience. I had defended my culinary vision against critics, rival chefs, and impossible odds. Brenda Sterling was just a small-town bully, but her actions had stirred something deep within me. She had tried to steal my secret, not for the love of cooking, but for selfish gain. She saw a simple vacationing chef. She had no idea she had just declared war on a Michelin-Star powerhouse. My hands, which had once created symphonies of flavor for the elite, now tingled with the anticipation of crafting a different kind of masterpiece, a carefully orchestrated downfall. The theft of the decoy bottle was Brenda Sterling's biggest mistake. She believed she had acquired the final piece of my puzzle, the magical elixir that would unlock the secret to my sun-kissed fish tacos and restore her tarnished reputation. What she didn't know was that she had merely picked up the first thread in a carefully woven trap, laid by someone who had spent a decade outmaneuvering the most cunning palates and cutthroat competitors in the world. My Michelin-Star past had taught me that true culinary genius wasn't just about cooking. It was about strategy, anticipation, and execution. This wasn't about anger. It was about defending the integrity of my craft and showing a bully the true meaning of culinary skill. My plan began with a subtle, yet crucial, adjustment to the town's annual summer food festival. I approached the festival organizers, offering to sponsor a new event, the Grey Beach Side by Toff, a friendly competition for local food vendors to showcase their signature dish. It was pitched as a celebration of local talent, but it was, in reality, the stage for Brenda's downfall. The organizers, thrilled by the idea and my quiet generosity, quickly announced the event. Brenda, predictably, saw this as her golden opportunity. She registered immediately, publicly boasting that Brenda's Bites would finally show this upstart food truck how real local cuisine was made. Her confidence, inflated by the bitter decoy she clutched, was a stark contrast to my quiet preparations. The day of the great beachside by Toff dawned bright and clear, the air buzzing with excitement. The festival grounds were packed, and the competition area, a series of open-air cooking stations, was a hive of activity. My station, the catch, was simple, clean, and efficient, stocked with fresh, vibrant ingredients. Brenda's station, just a spots down, was a chaotic mess of mismatched containers and a frantic energy. She had proudly set up a sign, Brenda's Bites, authentic beachside tacos, with the secret ingredient. She spent the morning meticulously assembling her tacos, furtively adding generous drops from the stolen decoy bottle into her sauce. The pungent, bitter aroma was faintly detectable to my trained nose, and I had to suppress a smirk. She was meticulously following my process, but with a fundamentally flawed ingredient. As the judges, a panel of local food critics and community leaders, began their rounds, Brenda positioned herself strategically, beaming with false confidence. She presented her tacos with an air of triumphant superiority, gesturing grandly too. Her secret ingredient. She truly believed she had replicated my magic. The first judge took a bite of Brenda's taco. His expression, initially expectant, quickly crumpled into a grimace. He coughed, then took a sip of water, his brow furrowed. In confusion, the second judge fared no better, visibly shuddering. A murmur rippled through the curious onlookers. Brenda, her smile faltering, rushed forward. It's a very complex flavor profile," she stammered, trying to explain away the obvious unpleasantness. "You have to really appreciate the earthiness." But the earthiness was nothing more than the sharp, acrid bitterness of the decoy oil. The judges moved on quickly, their faces etched with polite disgust. Now was my cue. As the crowd's attention shifted, drawn by Brenda's public failure, I casually walked to the front of my own stall. "For those of you who might be wondering," I announced, my voice clear and calm, "how a truly sun-kissed fish taco should taste, I'm offering free samples right now. Come taste the real difference." The crowd, curious after witnessing Brenda's culinary disaster, flocked to my stall. I swiftly prepared a fresh batch of my tacos, applying the real secret lime oil. The fragrant aroma wafting through the air, completely distinct from the bitterness emanating from Brenda's station. One by one, people tasted my tacos, their eyes widened, their faces lit up with pure delight. Gasps of pleasure and murmurs of "Oh my God, that's incredible," filled the air. The contrast was undeniable and devastating for Brenda. She watched, her face blanching, as her masterpiece was rejected and mine was celebrated. Her attempts to salvage the situation were pathetic. She tried to blame the quality of the fish at the local market, then the unripe limeys, then even the humidity. Each excuse made her look more desperate, more incompetent, completely revealing her lack of true culinary skill and integrity. The whispers among the crowd turned from curiosity to outright ridicule. Her downfall had begun, orchestrated not by malice, but by the quiet, undeniable power of genuine talent. Brenda Sterling stood amidst the wreckage of her public failure, her face a mask of furious disbelief as the crowd moved away from her stall and swarmed mine. Her attempts to blame the ingredients, the weather, and anything else she could think of only made her look more pathetic. The great beachside by Toff was over before it had truly begun for her. The judges and the onlookers, their palates still singing with the taste of my authentic tacos, looked at her with a mixture of pity and contempt. It was a beautiful thing to watch, the quiet, undeniable power of genuine skill triumphing over loud, hollow arrogance. My victory wasn't just about winning a competition, it was about exposing a lie. But the final act, the grand crescendo of this culinary drama, was yet to come. I had to show them why her attempts were so laughable, why a simple food truck owner was so far out of her league. As the crowd's murmurs began to die down, I walked over to the judge's table, where they were still discussing the surprisingly pleasant experience of my tacos versus the truly dreadful taste of Brenda's. I held my hand out to the lead judge, a distinguished local food critic. "My name is Ethan Hayes," I said, my voice calm and clear enough for those nearby to hear. The critic's eyes widened, a slow shock spreading across his face. He shook my hand, his grip suddenly firm. "Ethan Hayes. You mean ... the Ethan Hayes. 3 Michelin stars." He whispered, disbelief etched on his face. The words, once spoken, rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. People turned, their conversation stopping abruptly. My young assistant, Maya, gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The whispers began again, louder this time. "He's a Michelin star. Chef the Ethan Hayes, from Paris. That's why his food is so incredible." The revelation changed everything. It didn't just make my victory impressive. It made Brenda's actions seem utterly foolish. She hadn't just tried to steal a recipe from a rival vendor, she had tried to steal from one of the greatest chefs in the world. Brenda, who had been sulking at her stall, heard the commotion. She looked over, saw the dawning realization on people's faces, and understood. The color drained from her face, leaving her a ghastly white. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. The jig was up. The town's respect for her, built over decades of uninspired baking, crumbled in an instant. The story spread like wildfire, carried by the awestruck locals and the now buzzing food critics. By the end of the day, her reputation was in ruins. Her once loyal customers were now openly mocking her. In the days that followed, Brenda's Bites became a ghost town, a testament to what happens when greed and a lack of integrity meet true talent. The local newspaper ran a story with the headline, "3-star chef exposes local baker in Taco Gate scandal." The humiliation was complete and total, a consequence she had brought entirely upon herself. As for me, the battle was over, and the peace I had craved had finally returned. Brenda's defeat wasn't a source of celebration. It was simply the expected outcome. It was the moment I could truly relax. I spent the next few days in my truck, not cooking, but simply enjoying the quiet. I walked the beach at dawn, my mind clear, no longer worried about spies or sabotages. The local community, now reverent, treated me with a newfound respect, but they also respected my desire for privacy. They brought me fresh fish, local vegetables, and warm smiles, not because I was a famous chef, but because I had defended my passion with integrity. I gained a new appreciation for the simple joys of this town and the genuine people in it. While I wouldn't stay forever, I knew I would be back. My vacation had been interrupted, but in the end, it had given me something far more valuable than rest. It had reminded me why I started cooking in the first place, for the simple, honest joy of it. The pressure was gone, the love was back, and that, I knew, was a reward more precious than any number of stars.